Today I'm going to show you guys how to create the second two types of constructions with your good old Comtractor here. So yesterday I showed you how to copy a segment and how to copy an angle. Those were the first two types. The second two types are what we're going to do on this sheet right here. So I'm going to do the same thing I did last time. I'm going to do one of each type with you. If you feel like I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video, rewind, rewatch it. But like I said, I'm only going to do one of each, and you'll be responsible for the rest of the sheet. So I'm going to do the same thing, again, like I did last time. I'm going to separate the paper. The third type of construction, so the first one for today, is going to be 1 through 4 here on the segments, and 5 through 8. That's going to be the last construction that we learn, and we're going to do that with these angles here. Now, if you read the directions for this first half of the paper, it says, construct the perpendicular bisector of each segment they give me. Now, we need to talk about, before we start here, what it means for something to be a perpendicular bisector. Perpendicular means that two segments, two lines, they come together and meet at a right angle, 90 degrees. The second part of what we're making is it bisects the segment. So I'm going to make some drawing on here, some segment that is making a right angle with this segment, and it bisects it. So you need to make a note here that bisect means cut in half. Okay, so in other words, we're going to be drawing, like I said, some segment on here, and do not draw this on your paper. You need to do a Comtractor construction. But I'm going to be drawing some segment that makes a 90-degree angle with the one they give me, and that cuts the segment they give me in half. Okay, so that's my goal, to create some segment like this that I just freehanded. You are not going to do that on your paper though. Okay, so if you just drew what I did, erase it. You need to use your Comtractor. Okay, so here's how I'm going to go about doing that. And again, I would use pencil. It's much easier to work with the Comtractor using a pencil. So on number 1 here, and I'm going to label, just for the sake of you guys knowing which point I'm talking about, label the points A and B on my segment. Okay, what you want to do is put the brass circle on point A here. Okay, remember when we do our movements, we like hold down the brass circle and we slide the Comtractor up and down. We're going to be doing that same kind of movement. What I need to do is, looking at these radius holes, I need to, just by eyeballing it, pick one of these holes that goes over halfway on the segment. So, okay, halfway is right about there, so we're going to hold it down. And 50, I know for sure, hits the segment over halfway. So it goes way over halfway, but I'm obviously safe. You know what, actually I'm not going to do 50 because it might go off the paper. I'm going to do 40. Yeah, 40 looks good. We'll go over halfway, so I'm safe with that one. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, put my finger on the brass circle to hold it down, and put my pencil in the radius hole 40 here. And I'm going to make a huge arc. Pretty much a half circle here. So I made that through 40. And you guys, the reason I picked 40, or I was looking at 50 initially, is because those holes are right at the top, easy to access there, and they are labeled. So they've got the number next to them. I picked one of those because you have to remember the radius hole that you used. So don't go in here and just pick any random one. You will forget. You won't count which number it is. So stick with the ones at the top here. So stick with like 30, 40, 50, 60. Those are easier to work with. Okay, so I picked 40 and I made a big half circle. I'm going to turn my paper upside down And I'm going to do the exact same thing, but I'm going to put the brass circle on B this time. Okay. I used 40 the first time, so I'm going to use 40 again, and I'm going to make the exact same arc. And make it big enough so it intersects the first arc you made in 2 different places. So intersected there and there. Okay, I'm turning my paper around. Now, I like to think that it looks like this little fish thing. That's kind of what I always call it, so you'll hear me say, oh, it looks like the fish thing. I'm even going to note that. Okay, we're actually not done. We have to draw this segment in that's at a right angle and that cuts AB in half. To do that, you connect those 2 points where your arcs met and use your straight edge. Perfect. That pink segment that I just drew is the perpendicular bisector of AB. Okay, if we measured it out, it would make a right angle with AB, and if I use my ruler, it would be 3 on each side. Okay, so, and it cuts it in half. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now and do your constructions for these other 3. Now I'm going to show you how to do the last, 4th and final construction that we learned this unit. The directions on this one say, through 5 through 8, construct the bisector. So again, I see that word bisector. And remember, it means the same thing. It means to cut in half. So I need to draw some piece that's cutting the angle in half. And we're going to draw a ray right through the middle of this angle that cuts it into 2 equal pieces. Okay, to do that, we start very similarly to how we started the angle part yesterday. And we don't have to make our own angle, we're just making our bisector right on the picture they gave us. Okay, I'm going to get some labels in there. You want to start by putting the brass circle on the vertex A here. Okay, I'm going to hold it down. You're going to pick any radius hole that you want. So again, I always stick with like 30, 40, or 50. And I'm going to go in the middle there at 40. It really doesn't make a huge difference which one you pick, but remember to pick one that's labeled, and the top ones are just easier to deal with. So I'm going to put my pencil in 40, and I'm going to make a big arc that intersects the angle at both rays. So intersected there, we'll call that point B, and it intersected up there, call that point C. Okay, from there, take your brass circle and slide it to point B, and hold it down. Okay, I'm just going to stick with 40, so when you do the bisectors, you just stick with the same radius hole all the way through. So I'm going to go to 40, and I'm going to make like a floating little arc out here in the middle of the angle. It's better to make your marks longer than having them be too short, okay? So if you're not sure if it's long enough, just make it bigger. But that'll be good, just kind of like an arc floating out in space there. Now take the brass circle and slide it to point C. Hold it down. And make the exact same arc at 40. And you just have to make it big enough so that way it hits the other arc that I made. They need to intersect. Okay, where they intersect, I'm going to draw my bisector going from the vertex A through that intersection point. We'll call it D. So I'm going to draw ray AD with my straight edge. Perfect. Okay, so ray AD is cutting angle CAB directly down the middle. And I could mark The two pieces congruent, that's exactly what that means. I'm done. Okay, go ahead and finish 6, 7, and 8, and then you can start working on the back. Okay, you are responsible for all of this work for tomorrow at the beginning of class.